The story begins as the popular kids at school make their cliché walk through the hallways, as everyone gossips about them. Susan is the student council president, superstar, and some certified nerd named Kazuki is her little sidekick. He's also the vice president. Some people just turn out to be the center of attention, but our average Joe, ordinary protagonist, doesn't consider himself one of these people. His name is Usato, and this self-hating guy just thinks of himself as a forgettable, run-of-the-mill high school student. The most exciting adventure in this dude's vanilla-flavored life is returning some dumb pigeon babies to their nest. Deep down, though, Usato was always hoping for an extraordinary life. Luckily for him, he is the protagonist of this anime. For now, though, it's raining, and Usato doesn't have an umbrella. Us evil side shows itself for a second as he contemplates taking someone else's, but this typical good guy decides against it, fearing the beginning of a life of crime over a $5 umbrella. This proves to be a pretty stupid decision, though, as he ends up waiting for hours. Susan appears out of nowhere and explains that all students are required to leave. This guy really is forgettable as he decides to just run home in the rain. But Susan stops him. It would look bad for the student council to just watch him get soaked in the rain like a loser. So, Kazuki arrives and lends him his spare umbrella. Usato was certain that Kazuki didn't even know of his useless existence and is even more surprised when Kazuki seems to be a nice guy. They offer to all walk home together, and Susan points out that it must be fate that they met. Us nerdy mind goes right to video games as he thinks of this moment as suddenly hitting a walking home with two of the most popular kids at school event. He almost ruins this marvelous moment as he says that everyone in school will be jealous. But luckily, they didn't hear his utterly embarrassing comment. On their little walk, Usato tells Kazuki that he didn't expect him to be so nice because he only ever sees this playboy rising up the ladies. Kazuki only talks to the girls out of pity, and Susan roasts him by saying that he likes talking to boys better anyway. Susan is even more unapproachable for our shy protagonist, though, as she is the top of her class in all subjects and great at all sports. Usato glazes her up even more and points out that she's also beautiful inside and out. Usato, acting like some kind of dumb gossip news reporter, finally comes out and asks if they are dating since everyone at school talks about it. The walk gets pretty awkward, but they explain that they only spend so much time together because they are on the student council. Us apologizes for the incredibly stupid question that he definitely should not have asked, but Susan doesn't mind since it's better than talking behind their back. Their incredibly snooze-inducing conversation continues as the three then talk about what they will do when they graduate. None of these dummies have a plan yet, though. Suzuin is already a third year, but she has a huge problem. She still hasn't found what she wants to do, and she immediately completes any goal she sets for herself, seemingly foreshadowing what's about to happen. Suzuin explains that she feels like she doesn't belong in this world, and Usato is shocked. The two of them are totally opposite people, but he understands that feeling. This boring conversation has me wishing that Tron would pay them a visit as well. But they all stop when the two student council members hear bells ringing. The ringing gets louder and louder, but Usato doesn't hear a single thing. Just as Usato approaches the others, a magic circle appears on the ground, and he wonders if it's a gate to another world. Instead of being terrified, Suz looks like a psycho and wonders if Usato thinks they will find magic monsters and heroes in this other world. Usato is shocked that she's into that kind of stuff, but time is up, and they are taken away. Usato eventually wakes up and finds that they are sitting in front of a king. The boys are rightfully terrified and cautious, but something is wrong with Susan's brain, as she only feels excitement. King Jerkwat has the most basic name ever and introduces himself as Lloyd. Kazuki wants to skip the introductions, though, and demands to know why Lloyd brought them there. Lloyd keeps his hot-headed guard from slicing Kazaki into pieces for his disrespect and reveals that he is king, as if that wasn't painfully obvious already. The kids are still shocked by this, except for Susan, who is having the time of her life. Lloyd then reveals that they were summoned to be heroes, making all of Susan's dreams come true. 2 years ago, this world was attacked by the King of Demons and his army. They managed to drive them off, but the Demon Lord's power has been growing. As a last resort, they called forth accomplished individuals from another world who can confront a Demon Lord, using a forbidden ritual known as hero summoning. Usato tries to remind the excited Susan that they're having a serious conversation, and Kazuki goes all crazy. He doesn't care about heroes or demon lords and is just furious that they were summoned without consent. He refuses to be isekai since he is not the protagonist and demands that they get sent back to their world. Unfortunately for this side character, the hero summoning only works in one direction, so they can't go back. Kazuki still wants to go back to rising up all the ladies back home, but the king apologizes as they are desperate for help. Kazuki's whining marathon pushes the guards to finally quiet him down by threatening to turn him from a side character to a non-existent one. Usato calms the hothead down, and the king shockingly bows before them. He promises to find them a way back eventually, but begs that these heroes help him in the meantime. Suzuan finally stops fangirling over being ice-skate and wonders why the king calls them heroes without knowing anything about them. Some little dork named Whaley explains that the hero summoning is designed to select accomplished individuals. She explains that hearing the bells ring before being summoned indicates that they are heroes. That's actually some pretty bad news for our boy Usato, though, as he was the only one that didn't hear ringing, and he wonders if he was brought by accident. Whaley then takes them to a crystal ball that measures their magical abilities. Kazuki wonders if Usato is really okay with this, but our boy's just fine since Whaley told him that he might be able to use magic even though he isn't a hero. Kazuki thinks I should be more upset, but our boy isn't a whiny little dweeb like him, and he points out that they should try to be like the overly excited Susan. She is the first to be tested, and the color of the crystal indicates her affinity for thunder magic. As if that weren't amazing enough, she also has a ton of mana. Susan couldn't be any happier, and it is now Kazuki's turn. This guy barely touches the thing, and Whaley is amazed when the crystal turns white. It's light magic, and Susan is certain that it means he can shoot laser beams out of his eyes, or even better, he might be able to use swords made of light. Us points out that Kazuki isn't a wee like her and probably has no clue what she is talking about, but she scolds him for having a sharp tongue. Suzuan realizes that she likes his tongue that way, and Us' perfect image of Susan is getting ruined every time she talks. Whaley explains that light magic is incredibly rare, and few people can use it. Light repels evil, so its power is unparalleled against demons. The bar has been set pretty high by the first two, but now it's our protagonist's turn. Usato hopes that he will at least have the tiniest bit of power, as this humble kid just hopes to help Susan and Kazuki any way he can. He is glad when his crystal actually changes color, and everyone thinks it's a soothing color. A look at Whaley, though, paints a totally different picture as she is shocked by this color change and instantly drags Usato away without saying a single thing. Whaley urgently takes him to the king and explains that the other two have great abilities. However, she is there about something more important. The king has a good chuckle as he jokes about Usato having an affinity for dark magic, but this is shut up when Whaley reveals that the crystal ball turned green. The guards are even shocked, and Whaley begins to finally say what that means. King Lloyd stops her, though, as he doesn't even want her to utter those words, and Us begins to wonder if his magic affinity is really that bad. Our boy just has to remain confused, though, as the king quickly demands that Usato be taken away from the castle as quickly as possible. They try to think of the safest place to send him, and Usato wonders if he's really that dangerous. He asks if anyone else has the same magic, and there just so happens to be another person. It's a certain girl, but the king doesn't even want her name to be spoken. Unfortunately for King Coward, this girl barges in. Everyone is terrified beyond belief as we find out that her name is Rose, and she wants to know if the heroes have been summoned. The king was really hoping that she took the day off, but Rose would never do such a thing. She questions if Usato was a hero, but King Lloyd explains that he's just some nerd that got teleported there by accident. This guy desperately tries to hide the truth and tells her that Usato is superordinary. Rose introduces herself to Usato as a captain of the kingdom's rescue team, but our boy feels that this angry chick is more like the type to take lives, not save them. Whaley might be a genius because she diffuses the situation and offers to take Rose to the real heroes in the crystal room. Unfortunately, Usato is an idiot that can't read the room and asks the king what his green color crystal meant. Rose is still in hearing distance, so everyone is terrified by what's about to happen. Usato confirms that his ball is green, and Rose tells the king that she will be borrowing the boy. The king decides that he must act quickly and gently tells Whaley to get Usato away from her. Whaley uses some kind of bubble magic to quickly get him out of there, but Rose instantly takes off after him. Whaley sends our non-hero sky high, but Rose is able to get to him almost immediately. She is crazy powerful as she destroys the bubble and rapidly captures Usato. Everyone is left with their mouths open from shock like a bunch of guppy fish, and Rose tells the king that she will turn the boy into a full-fledged healing magic user. Whaley can't handle what will happen moving forward, so she faints, and the king begs Rose to stop. He knows that she has been searching for other healing magic users, but he tries to explain that Usato was really dragged into this by accident. His useless words go completely ignored as the two are already gone back in the castle. Us useless new friends have just been sitting on their stupid hands this entire time, but are shocked to hear that Usato was taken away. Whaley explains that his life is not going to be ended, but it's still really bad news. He was taken to the rescue team just beyond the castle town. Healing magic users are extremely rare, and the crazy lady that took him is one of them. She intends to train Usato as her subordinate. No matter how hard Susan uses her dumb brain, she can't see how this is a problem. Luckily, Whaley explains it to her like she's a toddler and reveals that Rose's training methods are extremely unorthodox. At her base, Rose explains that Usato only has the potential to become a healing magic user, so that is why she brought him to the rescue team. This will be his home, and she calls on her boys. Usato is terrified by these extreme dudes, and Rose tells them that they will be looking after him. She tells them to play nice, but these guys look like lunatics and introduce themselves. Usato fears the worst in every possible situation as he wonders if he's actually some kind of offering and is being sacrificed to these monsters. Rose tells them not to scare Usato, but she is the most terrifying of all. The boys try to explain that this is them being nice, but Usato doesn't think these brutes know what being nice means. Rose explains that while these meatheads are her subordinates, they are not healing magic users. There are 2 other healing magic users on the rescue team, but they usually work elsewhere. It's time to get to business, so Rose explains that she will beat the knowledge on how to use healing magic deep into his tiny little brain. Usato seems to be in a permanent state of disbelief as every fiber of his being is telling him to stay away from this insane person. Usato uses his Sunday morning church voice to ask if he could learn from another teacher, but Rose ignores the nerd and tells him that training starts tomorrow. She tells the brute named Tong to let Usato stay in his room and instructs them to eat dinner before getting rest. These guys hit Usato with the brutal reality once she leaves as they tell him that he is screwed. Rose will be training him herself, and she's going to put him through hell. They say hell might be the least of his worries, and the meatheads have a good laugh at our non-hero's expense. That night, Usato wonders what will happen to him, but he finally shows a bit of optimism as he is certain that things will be okay. He might be wrong, however, as we see that not even Rose knows what will happen. Thanks for watching. If you want more videos, join my WhatsApp channel and don't forget to subscribe.